Well, I'm here to share some of my experiences and my journey over the years. I came into Hyderabad. My father worked in a bank, so he was getting transferred every 3 years. So initial years were in Orissa, then we were in Chennai, then coastal Andhra. And then when I came to Hyderabad, I was about 10 years old. This was the time I think everybody here um, would understand that in the year 1983, after the World Cup, everybody wanted to play cricket. I was also the same, wanted to play cricket, was playing cricket in my apartment, broke a few window panes, and my neighbors complained. My mom said, why don't we take him to the stadium, because otherwise he'll get us into trouble. We went to join for cricket. Fortunately or unfortunately, cricket admissions were full. So the next sport which we knew was tennis. So we went to the tennis court, and on the way out, my parents saw too many cars parked outside. They thought, this is a rich man's sport, let's not get into it. We'll go to some other sport. It so happens that the LB Stadium in the circle, the next sport was badminton, and it was empty. And that is really the reason why I played sport. So when I look at my entire journey, I look at it as God's grace and destiny more than anything else. So for me, the initial years were tough. My mom was very tough with education. To make my life worse, my brother went to IIT. So I also was on the same path, maths, physics, and chemistry. I think every Telugu person would understand it even more than the others, that there were only two professions. Either you're a doctor or an engineer. I also wrote my engineering exam. Luckily, I failed. And that year, my parents said, you have a chance to play sport. And if you perform well, you can continue playing. That year, I won the junior nationals. I also played for the country. But most importantly, I got a job in Tata Steel. And that was the beginning of my badminton career, so to say. Life wasn't easy because at school it was tough. I was studying in a school which was very academic oriented, St. Paul's in Hyderabad. So I would go there. Mornings, I would go to play. Like typical day would be that you get up in the morning at 4:30. You study loudly so that my mom could hear it in her bedroom for 1 hour. And if you study for 1 hour continuously, then you get to go to the stadium. You go to the stadium by around 5:30, you leave. You come back at around 8:15, rush to school by 9, come back from school at 3 o'clock, get to the stadium by around 4 o'clock, and then you study, you play for 2 hours. By 6:30 you play, come back, do homework, eat and sleep. This is how life was. This is like everyday life was like this. Back then, we never won many international or national events from Hyderabad. So for me to even think or dream that I could become something more than a state champion was not even a possibility. I recollect slightly. I aspired to be like one person in the stadium who had a little punch and who would hit hard. And that is what all I thought was the best badminton player I could think of. Because if I had a dream, I don't think it would have been much bigger than that. So every step I climbed, I realized that if I worked harder, the next step is possible. I went on to win the district. I went on to win the state. And when I won the state, I realized that if I push harder, I could win at the national level. And when I won the nationals and I went to the international level, I realized that if I push harder, I could win at the international level. So every step I climbed, the next step seemed possible. And there was only one principle, that you need to push and work harder. Luckily, it worked for me each time. And I went on to win 1 or 2 titles at the national level. This was around the year 92, 93. Things were looking good. And I remember one incident very clearly. We were playing this tournament. This was one of the first events where India had sent a team internationally after many years. And this was the Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. It was a circuit of 3 tournaments. We played the first tournament, and the joke then was that Indian team, and think of it and not a reason, but think of how our journeys to sport were. We would get from here, take an AP Express, second class, go to Delhi, that's about 27 hours, stay there in Paharganj in a hotel, and then apply for visa in Chanakyapuri, stay there 2-3 days for that, and then go to Ashoka Hotel, Barman Lorry, another 3 days. So, and then we would go to the tournament. So by the end of the day, after about 8 or 9 days of traveling to go to the tournament, our achievement was to reach the tournament. So there are 2 things which we would be talking about. And when we were packing, the thing was, कितने कपड़े लेके जा रहे हैं? I said, क्यों? भाई एक खेलने का लेके जा, 4-5 अच्छे casual लेके जा. Because all of us never thought we would win anything more than 1 round. That is how the entire mindset was. Although in the year 1980, Prakash sir had won the All England, somehow between that time and 1990, a lot of things had changed. We never thought we could emulate something what Prakash sir had done. But then we went there. I remember this time when we were sitting in the Hotel Emerald next to the Hotel Negara, to the Stadium Negara. We finished off on the first day and everybody lost. Yeah, morning show, yeah, matinee. Because all of us had lost in the first round. So, subah mein hara hai ki afternoon mein hara hai. Itna hi tha. Because all 18 of us had lost. And we were like, tera kitna time hua, mera kitna time hua. Because somebody lost in 15 minutes, somebody lost in 18 minutes. So the joke was the Indians played the fastest match in the tournament on the losing side. If we were all sitting down having ordered some Indian food, and I was the youngest of the lot, we had all lost, and everybody was like, sir, Chinese itna jump kar rahe hain, मेरे को शटल ही दिखा नहीं है. तो कोई बोल रहा है, यार मेरे को शटल छोड़, मेरे को आदमी नहीं दिख रहा है. So this is the kind of conversation we were all having there. And then I was one of the youngest of that lot. I got up and said, क्या बात कर रहे हो, हम जीत सकते हैं, मैं जीत के दिखाऊंगा. Everybody pounced on me and said, बच्चा है, बहुत उचक रहा है, साले जल्दी सीख जाएगा. I walked out of that room that day saying, मैं जीत के दिखाऊंगा. And if I'm proud of anything in my life, it's the fact that I had the kid in me alive all the time when I played. And that for me was something which I'm really proud about. Things didn't happen easily for me. 2 years later, I had won a few tournaments, few matches internationally. We had a Chinese coach who came. He really showed us how to train, and then we were working, and we got some good results internationally. But I was playing at this tournament in Pune. This was the 1994 National Games. I had reached the finals of the men's singles, and I was playing the semi-finals of the men's doubles in the morning. I was moving backwards. My partner was moving sideways. Both of us couldn't see each other. We jumped and collided, and he landed on my left leg. And I twisted the leg, and I tore the anterior cruciate ligament of my left leg, left knee, and I was out of badminton for almost about 6 months. But by the time I could come back and play and win anything, it was almost a year's time when I could come back. I came back, started to win and play well. I beat the 1992 Olympic champion Alan Budi Kusuma. I also beat the 1996 Olympic champion Paul Erik Hoyer Larsen. But then I got injured again playing in Scotland at the World Championships, and had to come back to India again in 96 for the second surgery, and had come back again and started to train again after the surgery. Got some good results, but again got injured at a tournament in Mumbai and had my third knee surgery in 6 years. This was between when I was 18 to 23. And luckily for me, between the years 1998 to 2001, I didn't have many injuries. And that's when I got my All England or the Commonwealth or the Asian Championships or any of those tournaments which I won. So in all this time, there were two incidences which really were very important. One was when we played a tournament in Netherlands. I finished off, I was playing for a club called FC Langenfeld in Germany. I played this tournament in Netherlands. I lost in the first round. Cold weather, 3 knee surgeries. Left knee was really bad. It was hurting, swollen, cold, alone, not much money. So it was a struggle. And I lost the match and I came out. And I remember my coach, Suyan, who was the coach of the league club team, he called my friend Oliver and said, "Don't ask Gopi to worry. It's not how many times you fall or how hard you fall. It's how quickly you get up each time that matters." And for me, I remembered that very much. There were many things which I've learned in our country from my coaches. And I had some great coaches in our country. Arif sir, Hamid Hussain sir, Prakash sir, Ganguly Prasad. But I never learned this lesson about failure from any of my coaches here. And I think it's very important that lessons on failure should be talked about and spoken about. And it's very important. So this is something which I really learned from my coach, Suyan. The second thing was, I was playing the whole league. One of the things which I always did, and I'm really proud of, I didn't care whether the match was a club match or it's an Olympic level or an All England level. I gave my heart out for every match. And my club was very proud of me for that. I never looked at profit and loss on each bargain. I think the attitude was to give my best each time. So I played consistently for about 4 years. And one of my last matches I lost. So I remember Gunter, who was the manager of the club, he saw me a little down and he said, "Gopi, you're not God. You will also lose sometimes. And it's okay to lose." And I think those things remain because my urge to win was a lot. But that also meant that when you lose, it's going to backfire and you need to go down. But luckily, these 2 lessons actually always kept my emotion under check. And that for me was very, very critical and important. Now, I had these years of experience. I learned a lot from my coaches, from my travel, from moving around. And I reflected on my own journey. I learned a lot from trial and error. And by the time I won the All England, I figured out, boss, I have the formula which is needed to win. I knew what needs to be done physically, mentally, nutritionally, and training-wise. Everything I figured it. I said, boss, I will rule the world for the next few years. That's what I had in mind because I figured it all out. But when I came back in 2001 after the All England, I had 3 metatarsals of my foot broken. I had an ankle fracture, and finally by the end of the year, I had a right knee surgery because of overuse. Because over the years, I consistently put more pressure unknowingly on my right foot, and my right foot got just worn out. So I never could really recover from it. So I had this great formula. I knew what needed to be done, and I was desperate to use it. And I didn't have the body to use it. So I just picked up some kids in Hyderabad and started coaching them. The oldest of that group was Parupalli Kashyap, who was about 16. He won the Commonwealth in 2014. We had people like Sai Praneeth, we had Sindhu, we had Sikhi Reddy, we had Sindhu, Saina, Sai Praneeth, Guru Sai Dutt. These are all from that first batch of 2004 when I started coaching. And I also realized growing up that, and this whole thing came up with this simple premise that if I can do it, many others can do it. And for me, one challenge was, when I used to go today, when we talk about sports science, when we talk about sport, we talk about facility, we talk about physiologists, psychologists, nutritionists, biomechanics, analysts. These are the things we talk about. Back then, my challenges were very fundamental. You go to the stadium, watchman nahi aaya, darwaza nahi khol raha hai. You go inside, current nahi hai. You want to play, shuttle nahi hai. Coach nahi hai, player nahi hai. You want to run, ground mein shaadi hua hai. These were the kind of challenges which I had faced. And I said, boss, if I can win the All England, probably many others can. With that in mind, I started saying, what do we need? So I said, first and foremost, we'll need some infrastructure, because we were running out of Gachibowli Stadium. And I realized if you're going to stop for Diwali, Ramzan, Dasara, Christmas, we'll never produce champions, because champions, players need to train when they have to train. It is not when government decides that you can train. So with that in mind, it was important that we build infrastructure which is open, available, and all of these basic facilities are there. So luckily, I had a piece of land which was given by the Jain government, and then we started to build the academy there. I had a person called N. Prasad who gave me the first check of 2 crores to start the construction. We started off construction, midway down, and the typical tendency, I remember this room as well. You think that as an All England champion, you're very privileged. People come to you for autographs, photographs. People are wanting you to be part of their parties and functions. So I was moving around, meeting all the big people in town, and expecting that they would also fund me in my academy. Things didn't happen exactly that way. Slowly, I would make presentations. People said, nice job, well done, but we'll look at it. And I would go meet people. Slowly, people started. I could see people not picking up my calls. I could see if I go to a room, people would more, "Arey yaar, ye aa gaya, wapas paise puchega." And that is the kind of mindset people would start having. So I was under tremendous pressure to finish the academy and start coaching. I was coaching morning till evening. I was in the afternoons, I was making presentations and looking at construction. And this whole thing was a lot of pressure. One time, a certain CFO of a company whom I went to made me wait outside his room for 3 consecutive days from 9:30 till 6:30 in the evening, asking a few questions in between. And at the end of 3 days, he tells me that, Gopi, I'm even talking to you because my chairman has said to look at the proposal. But honestly, I don't think badminton has it to be a world sport, and I don't think Indians have it in them to win at this sport. And you're a good man, but I don't think you can be a good coach. This was in Bombay. I just said, thank you very much, sir. I walked off. He said, no, sit, we'll still talk. We can do something. I said, no, thank you very much. I walked out, came out of the building, took the flight, came back to Hyderabad. I have a 1,000 yards house in Jubilee Hills. I came there, called my parents and wife and said, we need to sell the house. I can't do this anymore. And we can go back to the apartment, but I need to sell this house because it's been not productive enough. They said yes, and luckily the next day we didn't sell the house, but we mortgaged the house and got a 3 crore loan on it. And finally we were able to finish the construction with all of my funds. My father as a banker, I got about 50 lakhs when I won the All England. So he put that in a bank. About 5 years later, it doubled up and came out as a crore. My brother, who was in the US, sent me some money, and all of it put together, we put that money to finish the construction, and we completed the academy in 2007. And that's how we've been able to produce this results. So things were on the other side. I was coaching. I was spending some ridiculous hours. 4 in the morning I would go, come back at 8 in the evening. I was coaching. I was looking construction. I was seeking funds. I was traveling. Everything I was doing. Very tired, insane amounts of work, but a lot of support from family because they just supported all through. My parents and my wife and my kids really were not troubling me to take care of them. They let me do all this stuff. Finally, we finished the academy. I go to the CM's office to tell him that you need to come for the inauguration. I meet the sports minister outside. He says, Gopi, we have decided to take the land back because we want to build service apartments there. And I said, sir, can you see? I had this iPad. I said, can you see that we have built the badminton courts here? Can you see this? He says, yeah. And he says, no, get the file. And he says, can you see the file? Because the file clearly said nothing is built except the compound wall. Unfortunately, I had to go to court, but luckily I had a stay order from the court. And this, we fought for 6 years, between the years 2008 to 2014 in court. And luckily, I had people support me. And in 2014, when the new government came and Telangana was formed, the new government actually gave the land back and withdrew the case. And finally, we had the academy with me back and the pressure a little bit off. So, in the meanwhile, on the sidelines, we won medals at the Commonwealth in 2010. We reached 2008, we reached the first quarterfinals at the Olympics. In 2010, we won the first medals at the Commonwealth. In 2012, we won our first medals at the Olympics in London. In 2014, we won the men's singles at the Commonwealth and the team silver. And in 2016, we had a silver from Sindhu. And in 2018, we've had many, many more. And 20 we have got. And today, thankfully, the sport is very big. And we've had some great successes. And we also had some great people support us. And today, luckily, since I'm here at this forum, we had even for the last 6 years, Madam Anuradha Desai and Bencob Chicken and Eggs have been sponsoring us for the last 6 years. And that's something which has been truly phenomenal. So today, thankfully, we have the support. We have the parents supporting their kids. And in years to come, I'm sure we as a nation will produce many more results. I'll stop with one last thing. I think when people look at this journey from the other side, they would look at it and say, boss, this is hard work, sacrifice, determination, discipline, all of these things. But yes, I was gritty. I didn't give up. I pushed. But truly, most of my journey has been about loving the sport. It was the passion for the sport. It was the kid who loved to and happy to be part of that sport. And most of the journey was love, passion, involvement, and encouraging to learn more from the sport. And yes, there's an element of 5 or 10% which is grit, determination, and hard work. But I don't think all of us can live a life totally with grit and determination for all our lives. It's going to be very difficult. I think it's important that we love what we do, and at times we have to be gritty and pushy, but that is only about 5-10%. But I would also say one thing. In all my life, pride is very important. And somewhere down the line, I've also been able to achieve what I did because I felt that pride. Not to lose to a person, I cannot lose to him. I still remember the days when I would go to China, and imagine you've played here in small 2-3 badminton courts, and you go to a big stadium and you're playing with a foreign shuttle. At that time, Yonex shuttle was a foreign shuttle for us in some sense because it would behave very differently. An Indian shuttle would travel like this, a foreign shuttle would travel like this. And before 91, 92, before the company opened up, we could never import shuttles. We could have to buy them from a customs notified shop, and you would get 1 barrel of shuttle. So you never were used to those shuttles. You go to a big stadium, I remember the entire Chinese 5,000 people laughing at you because you're trying to play and you're still in the second class train. Kach, 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 kach. Your mind is running and you're just eaten aloo puri or samosa for breakfast, lunch and dinner, and that's what you've done. So you're half of the time wobbling, you're jet lagged, and then you try to hit and you're missing the shuttle for 2 times and the entire crowd is laughing. Somewhere down the line, it is the pride that I don't like Indians to lose. I don't like me to lose. And that, I think, pushes you for bigger things. I remember it was raw talent, raw aggression, where I would just make it a point that I can't lose to these English guys because सालों ने अब मेरे पे 200 साल राज किया है. And just that feeling makes you punch higher than your weight category. I think that is very important. Pride is what makes people punch higher than their weight category. And I think for all of us to grow in life, we need that element of pride, which is very critical. And it comes, and it should come for us because of the country we are, because of the people we are. We need to go back and draw inspiration from our ancestors, from our culture. And I think that is what going to be, because I do strongly believe, in spite of the many shortcomings we have in our country, I think the future belongs to India and we can make it happen. With this, thank you very much.